April 18, 1945. 26,000 feet over southern Germany. The sky is a hard, polished blue, too clean for what's about to happen. First Lieutenant Jack Reynolds, U.S. Army Air Forces, grips the control stick of his P-51D Mustang as the aircraft shudders beneath him. The Merlin engine, normally a smooth metallic growl, begins to cough. Once, twice. Like a wounded animal refusing to die quietly. The cockpit smells wrong. Hot oil. Electrical burn. Fear. A warning light blooms red on the panel. Reynolds glances down just long enough to see the oil pressure needle falling. Fast. He looks back up and the sky ahead explodes into black puffs of flak, bursting like iron flowers at his altitude. Red 2. I'm hit, he says into the oxygen mask, voice tight but controlled. Training holds for now. Below him, Germany stretches out in grim clarity. Patchwork fields, dark forests, thin gray roads crawling with trucks fleeing west. The war is almost over. Everyone knows it, and that somehow makes this worse. Another violent thump slams through the fuselage. The Mustang lurches left. The canopy rattles. The engine scream turns into a grinding shriek, metal tearing itself apart at 3,000 revolutions per minute. Reynolds fights the stick, boots pressing rudder pedals as smoke begins to curl in from the nose, thin at first, then thicker, black, oily, unmistakable. He's losing her. The P-51 had been built to survive this kind of punishment, laminar flow wings, rugged airframe, but no machine can outrun physics forever. The propeller windmills uselessly now, blades flashing in the sun like a mockery. Bail out, Jack, comes a voice over the radio, his flight leader, calm, helpless. Reynolds doesn't answer. He scans the horizon. No friendly lines. No clouds thick enough to hide in. Just enemy territory all the way down. The cockpit temperature spikes. Sweat pools inside his gloves. He reaches for the canopy release, hesitates. One last instinctive glance at the instrument panel, as if the Mustang might miraculously recover. It doesn't. He yanks the handle. The canopy blasts away in a roar of wind. The slipstream punches him in the chest, ripping at his flight suit, tearing sound from the world. Reynolds hauls himself upright, one boot already on the seat, when the engine finally gives up entirely. Silence. A terrible, peaceful silence, broken only by rushing air. He dives clear. The parachute snaps open with bone-jarring force, jerking him upward as the P-51 drops away beneath him, trailing smoke, spiraling down like a dying hawk. He watches it for half a second longer than he should. Months of flying, hours of combat, gone in a falling speck of aluminum. Then the ground rises to meet him. Wind roars past his ears. Fields rush closer. He twists, pulls the risers, trying to avoid a stand of trees ahead. The war narrows to seconds and meters and luck. He hits hard. The impact knocks the breath from his lungs, slamming him onto his side. Pain flares through his ribs, white and sharp. He rolls, instinctively gathering the parachute, dragging it in before it can snag. For a heartbeat, there is only birdsong. Then shouting. Boots pound earth. Reynolds pushes himself upright just as German soldiers burst from the treeline. Rifles raised, helmets low, faces hard and exhausted. They look as tired as he feels. One of them yells something he doesn't understand, but the meaning is clear enough. Hands up. Reynolds raises them. They search him quickly, efficiently. Take his sidearm. Rip off his insignia. Someone punches him in the shoulder. Not hard, but deliberate. Ownership. Reality. A truck arrives. He's shoved into the back with two other airmen. Strangers, hollow-eyed, their faces bruised and dirty. The engine starts. The tailgate slams shut. As the truck rattles toward captivity, Reynolds looks back once more at the sky. Somewhere up there, Mustangs are still flying. He will not be joining them. The POW camp squats behind barbed wire and watchtowers like a scar carved into the countryside. Barracks stink of damp wood, sweat, and hopelessness. Days blur into each other. Roll calls, thin soup, rumors whispered at night. But Reynolds listens. He learns the rhythms. The guard rotations. The way German discipline is fraying as the Allies close in from every direction. He hears distant artillery some nights, low thunder on the horizon. And one morning, while being marched to a work detail near a small Luftwaffe dispersal field, he sees something that stops him cold. Beyond a row of canvas hangars, half hidden under netting, sits a German fighter. Low, compact, deadly. A Focke-Wulf Fw 190. His cowling gleams in the sun. Yellow tactical markings flash beneath chipped camouflage paint. Ground crew move around it casually, too casually, as if the war will go on forever. Reynolds' heart begins to hammer. He doesn't say a word, but something dangerous, reckless, and unstoppable takes root in his mind. If they shot down his Mustang, he will find another way to fly home. The sight of the Fw 190 stays with Reynolds long after the work detail ends. That night, lying on a wooden bunk beneath a leaking roof, he replays every detail in his head. The angle of the wings, the broad radial engine, the way the canopy slid back instead of hinging. He'd fought these machines for over a year, seen them slash through bomber formations, tear into Mustangs with brutal speed and roll rate. He knows them, not as well as a Mustang, but well enough. The camp is restless now. Guards argue openly. Supplies arrive late. One night, a watchtower light goes dark and no one fixes it. Another night, distant explosions shake dust from the rafters. The Reich is collapsing, and everyone can feel it. Opportunity doesn't announce itself. It leaks in through cracks. 3 days later, Reynolds is back at the airfield, assigned to unloading fuel drums. The guard detail is thin, older men, Volkssturm types, rifles slung more out of habit than readiness. The Fw 190 is still there. Closer this time. He notices what the others don't. No wheel chocks. No prop lock. The aircraft isn't secured for long-term storage. It's flyable. Maintained. Ready. A mechanic wipes his hands on a rag and walks away, laughing at something another man says. For a moment, no one is watching the fighter. Reynolds feels the decision lock into place. Not a thought. A switch. When the guard turns to light a cigarette, Reynolds lets one fuel drum slip from his grip. Crashes to the ground, diesel splashing everywhere. Men shout. Someone swears. The guard steps away, waving his arms. Reynolds moves. He breaks into a run. Hard, fast, heart hammering so loud he's sure it can be heard across the field. Boots pound packed earth. Shouts rise behind him, confused at first, then sharp with alarm. Halt! Halt! He ignores them. The Fw 190 looms ahead, squat and aggressive. Reynolds reaches the wing, vaults up, scrambles for the cockpit. He fumbles with the canopy latch, different from American designs, but muscle memory and adrenaline do their work. The canopy slides back. A rifle cracks. A bullet smacks into the wing root with a metallic snap. Another tears through fabric somewhere behind him. Reynolds drops into the cockpit. It's cramped. German labels everywhere, Oldruck, Drazel, Kraftstoff. The seat is low, the panel unfamiliar but not alien. He scans quickly, desperately. Battery. Fuel. Magnetos. He hears boots pounding closer. The starter whines. For half a second, nothing happens. Then the BMW 801 radial coughs, belches smoke, and roars to life. Deep, thunderous, vibrating the entire airframe. The propeller becomes a blurred disc, kicking up dust and debris. Shouting turns to panic. Someone fires again. Glass shatters behind him. The rear canopy splinters but holds. The sky ahead is hazy, streaked with thin cloud. Somewhere beyond it lies Allied airspace. Home. Or something close enough to count. Reynolds adjusts course slightly north, aiming for where he thinks the front lines should be. His mouth is dry. His hands shake just enough that he has to clamp down harder on the stick. The irony isn't lost on him. They shot down his Mustang. Now they'll have to stop one of their own. At 12,000 feet, the air grows colder, thinner. Frost creeps along the inside edge of the shattered canopy, feathering outward like white veins. Reynolds tightens his gloved grip on the stick, jaw clenched, eyes flicking between the horizon and the unfamiliar instruments. Every second he expects the sky to turn hostile. The first warning comes as a dark speck rising fast from below. Then a second. Reynolds' stomach drops. 2 fighters climbing hard. He banks slightly to get a better look, heart pounding as the shapes sharpen into unmistakable silhouettes. Long noses, laminar wings. P-51 Mustangs. His own people. For a fleeting moment, relief flashes through him, then dies instantly. To them, the cross-marked fighter he's flying is just another FW-190 trying to escape west. A legitimate kill. The Mustangs spread. Textbook intercept. One slides high, the other low, sun glinting off polished aluminum. Reynolds knows the move because he's flown it 100 times. He keys the radio out of reflex, then remembers it's gone. No identification, no warning, just a German fighter in the wrong place at the wrong time. He shoves the throttle forward, pushing the BMW engine into a roar that rattles his teeth. The FW-190 surges ahead, acceleration savage and immediate. The aircraft feels alive now, angry, eager. The Mustang above rolls inverted. Reynolds snaps into a hard brake left, hauling back and stomping rudder. The FW-190 answers instantly, rolling like it's on a hinge. G-forces crush him into the seat. Vision tunnels. He grits his teeth and holds it. Tracer fire streaks past where he'd been a second earlier. "Damn it," he mutters. "This isn't a fight. It's a misunderstanding with bullets." He dives. The German fighter drops like a stone, radial engine screaming as airspeed builds. The altimeter spins backward. Wind howls through the cracked canopy, tearing at his helmet. The Mustangs follow, but they're heavier in the dive. Reynolds hugs the deck, leveling out barely a few hundred feet above the ground. Hedgerows flashing past in a green and brown blur. Flak bursts suddenly ahead, black smears punching into the sky. German flak. He's flown straight into another nightmare. The batteries open up instinctively, crews reacting to a low-flying fighter racing west. Explosions bracket him, the aircraft shuddering with each near miss. Shrapnel clatters against the fuselage like thrown gravel. Reynolds yanks the stick again, weaving, twisting, trusting the FW-190's brutal agility. Smoke from a flak burst washes over the canopy, momentarily blinding him. Then clear sky. He bursts through the curtain of fire, breath ragged, heart slamming against his ribs. Behind him, the Mustangs hesitate, unwilling to follow him into the flak envelope. For now, Reynolds climbs again, more cautiously this time, keeping low clouds between him and potential interceptors. His fuel gauge has dipped below a third. The engine temperature needle creeps upward. He can't stay airborne much longer. Ahead, the landscape changes subtly. Fewer intact buildings, more shell craters, smoke columns rising in the distance. The front lines are close. He feels it in his bones. A river snakes across the terrain below, a broad, muddy ribbon reflecting dull sunlight. Reynolds recognizes it from maps and briefings. The Rhine. Relief surges through him so hard it almost knocks the breath from his lungs. But relief is dangerous. As he crosses the river, a new shape rises from the haze ahead, boxy, twin-engined, cruising slow and steady. A B-17 Flying Fortress, limping east to west, flak damage visible along its wing. Then another, and another, a returning bomber stream. Gunners swivel in their turrets. Reynolds' blood runs cold. He rocks the wings violently, dips the nose, pulls up. Anything to signal don't shoot. The first bursts of .50 caliber fire rip past him anyway, long, white-hot lines of death slicing the air. One round punches through the outer wing panel. Another snaps past his head, close enough to feel the shockwave. He dives away, barely missing the bomber formation, heart in his throat. The gunners stop firing as quickly as they started, uncertain. But the message is clear. No one trusts him. Fuel is critical now. The engine coughs once, then steadies, but Reynolds knows that sound. He's running on borrowed minutes. He scans desperately for somewhere, anywhere, to put the fighter down. Fields rush by below, many cratered, some flooded. Smoke and dust obscure the ground. Then he sees it. A long, straight stretch of packed earth, marked by tire tracks. An improvised Allied forward strip, barely more than a scar in the land. He lowers the gear. The wheels grind down with a jolt that rattles his spine. The flaps come down unevenly, the aircraft yawing hard. He fights it, coaxing the FW-190 into alignment as the engine sputters again. The ground rushes up. He touches down hard. The fighter bounces once, twice, then slams down, skidding sideways in a spray of dirt and grass. Reynolds wrestles the brakes, praying they hold. The aircraft slews, straightens, and finally rolls to a stop. Silence crashes down. For a moment, Reynolds just sits there, hands shaking, head bowed, breathing in the smell of hot oil and burned fuel. Then shouting. Jeeps race toward him. Soldiers spill out, rifles raised, disbelief written across their faces as they surround the captured German fighter. Reynolds pushes the canopy open slowly. He stands and raises his hands. The rifles don't lower. Not at first. Mud-splattered American infantrymen fan out around the FW-190, boots crunching on gravel, eyes wide with disbelief. One man circles the aircraft slowly, staring at the black and white Balkenkreuz on the fuselage as if it might suddenly leap back into the air on its own. "Don't move!" someone yells. "Hands where I can see 'em." Reynolds keeps his palms open, raised high. His legs feel weak now, the adrenaline bleeding out of him in a cold rush. The world seems unreal, too quiet after the chaos of the sky. "I'm American," he says loudly, carefully. "U.S. Army Air Forces." A few soldiers exchange looks. "Yeah." Another voice snaps. "Then why the hell are you flying a Nazi crate?" Reynolds swallows. "Because they shot down my Mustang." A lieutenant steps forward, older than the others, eyes sharp beneath a grime-streaked helmet. He studies Reynolds' flight suit. Tattered, stained, but unmistakably Allied. The parachute harness. The rank tabs still sewn onto his shoulders. "Name," the lieutenant says. "First Lieutenant Jack Reynolds. 354th Fighter Group." There's a pause. The lieutenant glances at the aircraft again, then back at Reynolds. "You got some explaining to do, Lieutenant." They escort him away from the fighter, rifles still trained on him, as if he might suddenly sprint back and take off again. Mechanics and engineers arrive almost immediately, drawn by the impossible sight. Fingers trace bullet holes. Someone whistles low. Inside a makeshift command tent, Reynolds sits on a folding chair, wrapped in a blanket someone shoved into his hands. A mug of coffee, thick, burnt, glorious, trembles as he lifts it. An intelligence captain listens as Reynolds talks. He starts at the flak burst, the engine failure, the bailout, the POW camp. The moment he saw the FW-190 sitting there, unattended, waiting like a challenge. The captain interrupts twice, once to clarify distances, once to ask how the hell Reynolds got the BMW engine started without German ground crew. Reynolds shrugs. Same principles, different labels. By the time he finishes, the tent is silent. Finally, the captain exhales slowly. "Son, do you realize how close you came to getting shot down by about everyone?" Reynolds manages a tired half-smile. "Yes, sir." Repeatedly. Word spreads fast. By evening, the fighter is roped off, guards posted around it like it's radioactive. Officers arrive from higher headquarters. Photographs are taken. Someone chalks "captured intact" on the cowling. Reynolds is processed, debriefed again, examined by a medic who clicks his tongue at the bruises and cracked ribs but clears him anyway. When they finally let him rest, he collapses onto a cot and sleeps like the dead. 2 days later, he stands on a proper airfield again, this one crowded with Allied aircraft, their roundels familiar and comforting. The German fighter has been hauled away for evaluation, destined for some intelligence hangar where engineers will tear it apart bolt by bolt. Reynolds watches it go. A colonel joins him, hands clasped behind his back. "You know," the colonel says, "most men would have waited for liberation." Reynolds doesn't look away from the departing aircraft. Most men didn't see an airplane sitting there with the keys in it. The colonel snorts. Fair point. A week later, Reynolds is back in a Mustang, new paint, new engine, the same old smell of oil and metal. As he taxis out, he passes a group of ground crew who stop and stare, grinning like schoolboys. One of them gives him a thumbs up. Reynolds returns it. The war ends not long after. Years later, when asked about the day he flew a German fighter across a collapsing Reich, Reynolds never dramatizes it. He never calls it heroic. He just says this: "They took my plane. I still needed to get home."